is perfect, and the cars are out on the circuit going through the motions at the moment of cleaning off any of the pickup on their tyres and just bringing everything up to temperature. It was certainly a fantastic opening race, and this was the man that claimed the maximum number of points, Mark Skaife, and here's how they'll line up based on the finishing order of the first event. Mark Skaife and his teammate Jason Bright 1 and 2. Craig Lowndes, the big mover in the pack, position 3. Marcus Ambrose, a fantastic drive for 4th. Greg Murphy also moved up substantially to position 5 from his old teammate. And what a battle that was with Stephen Richards in 6th, Stephen Johnson in 7th, another guy to move up, and then Todd Kelly.
Just a little bit more information for you at home. If you look at those yellow boxes down the right-hand side of the Shell Helix scoreboard, that shows you where they qualified. And of course, their starting position here is determined by the results of how they finished race 1, so you get an idea of how they performed throughout the day. Brad Jones, Jason Bargwana, see the number of cars there have different fortunes throughout the day. John Faulkner, John Bowe did not finish race 1. In fact, he had some problems. So it's been stories good and bad for various V8 supercar teams today.
And just as the cars come up onto the grid, I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome all of our viewers in New Zealand who are with us this year for the Shell Championship Series. Thanks for joining us and hope you're enjoying the coverage.
You on John Bowe's position. You mentioned the altercations and dramas he had in race 1. The car has been repaired. He will be starting from the rear of the grid in this one. And also to Anthony Tratt in the Toll Ford, who actually missed the start of the first race. They had a disintegrated, I should say, right rear hub in the morning warm-up. It's fixed. He's back for race 2.
Well, of course, you talk to any of these teams between races 1 and 2 and they'll all tell you, yeah, fantastic, our tyres are in really good shape and everything's going to be great.
Yeah, even though they look like 50-cent pieces.
Exactly.
So you don't get any, you're not going to get any accurate details out of the teams. They'll all tell you everything's fantastic. So the only way you get the truth as to how well these teams are managing their tyres or their suspension or whatever is how this race unfolds. Should be a fascinating contest.
Do you know, Lowndes' pit stop was 3 seconds quicker than anybody else's. That's quite amazing, isn't it?
Gibson Motorsport team were really on it, and that was a huge advantage for Lowndes in race 1. It's going to be a lot of pressure.
Revs build. 32 cars set for the start of race 2. The red light on and off.
Oh, Brighty, I think,
Bright gets a great jump initially. Bright on the outside, Skaife on the inside for turn 1, and coming up the inside is Murphy, and Murphy is through on Lowndes. Skaife, Bright, Ambrose on the outside. Murphy's going to argue all the way into turn 2 and take some ground off him. Ambrose tucked right in behind, then it's Lowndes, right behind Lowndes, Stephen Richards, then Stephen Johnson, Paul Wheel and Mark Larkham arguing over the same bit of real estate, the 2 Valvoline cars together.
Wow, that was something to watch. Murphy down the inside, 2 wheels on the grass, elbows out, pushed his way through on the inside of Craig Lowndes, and it's certainly effective for him. Look where the Kmart Commodore is now.
Oh, look at Ambrose.
Oh, a little bit of a touch there too. Lowndes gives the back of Ambrose's car a little bit of a kiss coming up the Honda.
Skaife made an enormous amount of ground in turn 1 and turn 2. You look at that space there is what he made in the first 2 turns.
Oh, look at the back. Gone round at turn 5 Siberia, so there was some form of contact or disruption there. And cars scattering all over the place. They include Anthony Tratt, Matthew White, Brad Jones, Tony Longhurst, David Bernard.
Well, Mark Larkham's been in the wars in race 1 and looks like he's got some damage here. Can he get out of that bog? Oh, no.
Paul Radisich has been dispatched. Something has happened here. This is on the run up to Lukey Heights.
Well, all hell breaking loose here as the field tries to gather themselves up. Of course, all these off-track altercations are going to drag a bit of dirt and garbage onto the track. But Radisich going right to the back of the field. This has not been a good day for the Rat.
Ambrose had everything locked up going into turn 4 into the hairpin the first time, and it'll be an interesting question as to whether or not his rubbers survived that. So it is Skaife, Bright, Greg Murphy, a big mover. Remember, he qualified outside the top 10, and look at these two arguing over the battle into turn 1. Murphy and Ambrose, 3rd and 4th, then Lowndes, Stephen Richards, Todd Kelly, Stephen Johnson, and this great rearward shot from Greg Murphy's car as the Pertec Falcon climbs all over him.
Well, Marcus Ambrose is having one of those dream debuts. He's really, really happy with the setup on the car. He said he's got good rubber mileage out of race 1, feeling very confident about his race package for race 2. Look how close he is behind the Kmart Commodore as they sweep down that dauntingly fast turn 3. Hard under brakes for turn 4. Lowndes in behind him, and Richards up there too.
Mark Larkham has stepped out of his car, so whatever his problem is as a result of that shunt, it's terminal.
Greg Murphy had high expectations to switch to the TWR run Kmart Commodores this year. He feels he's got the tools to do the job. He wants to be a championship contender from race 1. Didn't get the start to the weekend that he would have liked, but now he's right in the thick of things. The order: Scaife, Jason Bright, Greg Murphy in third, Marcus Ambrose filling the mirrors of the Kmart car, Craig Lowndes and Stephen Richards in there behind. Todd Kelly, good start from the Kmart driver.
Here's a replay of this incident on the way up to Siberia. Not really sure what triggered Larko going around. He was there with one of the Castrol cars. Rodney Forbes got into the back of one of the Valvoline cars. John Bowe ducks to the grass on the inside. Those that went to the grass on the outside in a terrible position out there. Remember, it's very wet in the outfield.
That's the second time Larko's got into trouble at Siberia. If you remember, he spun there earlier on.
Now here's the replay of the Radisic incident. He's been, I'd say, shoved off onto the grass, but we don't know who. Well, may well have been either Wheel or Morris. Something sent Radisic out into the grass there. It's not an area where you typically expect to fire off the road.
Geez, lucky he didn't collect any traffic there too, or they didn't hit him. Excellent opportunity to T-bone the side of the Ford there as it came across the track. He's managed to get away relatively unscathed. Look at Scaife now putting the pressure on. 1.4 seconds after he completes lap 2. Jason Bright just in behind him, and then we've got Greg Murphy in third.
You talked about Mark Larkham and what the dramas were that's taken him out of this second race here at Phillip Island today. Just spoken to Adam Perry and the boys and the team. They tell me it's broken suspension. Larkham's day is over.
Yeah, not the place where you want to have that to happen. Phillip Island's a very, very fast circuit. Things like broken suspensions, not the sort of thing a driver wants.
Notice that Ambrose's car really jumping sideways on the exit of Siberia that time, and Marcus can't afford to get too overly exuberant with those rear tyres around here. He's got to make them do 45 minutes, and Scaife showed everybody the best way to do that in race 1. Looked after the rear tyres and got an outstanding result. You've got to drive the car on the knife edge, but not cook those tyres up. There's the point situation, including the situation after qualifying. Scaife 153, a good margin over Bright, Lowndes, Ambrose, Richards and Murphy.
We should make the point that qualifying is ultra important this year, not only for determining your starting position, but there are points awarded for first down to 10th in the top 10 shootout. There's a maximum of 254 points available if you manage to take 13 pole positions this year, and that could be an absolute backbreaker in terms of winning or losing a championship. Look at this field. Scaife 1.7 seconds. He's pumped it out another 3/10 over his teammate in second. Greg Murphy still in third. Marcus Ambrose in fourth. Lowndes hovering around behind the Pertec Falcon. Just hoiks a wheel up inside the curb. But we've still got this compulsory pit stop to come up after lap 10. That's, of course, when the pits open. Between lap 10 and lap 20 is when these teams must make their compulsory tyre change.
When you think of how much time Lowndes made in the pits last time, 3 seconds, that's a massive amount of time when you think of how competitive this setup is now.
Rotten luck for Paul Wheel. He's just exiting as we speak. They've had to change the front left tyre and do some panel work to that car. He was involved in contact, a bit of a skirmish with someone. He hasn't said just at this stage who it was. So a rotten day for Paul Wheel, a guy that had climbed from last place up into the top 15 at the end of race 1. Grant?
If you remember back to last year, remember that the last race was really determined by how much rubber the drivers had left. Now, that was because there was such a severe graining problem. When we're talking about graining, if you come down and have a look at the tyre, it was a bit of a ripple-looking thing across the tyre. That means it washes away under full loading, high G loadings around here, and it shaves the rubber off the tyre. This year, we have a new compound, much stronger tyre. That means that these drivers are going to have a little bit more to play with here this afternoon in this last race, and we might see a few more battles like we saw with Richards and Murph in race number 1.
Yeah, it's a tough place. High average speed. The car's loaded very heavily for long durations of time at maximum speed. Really does test the tyres.
And Mark Scaife continues to put about 3/10 of a second a lap on nearest rival Jason Bright. Just looking at the bonnet on Craig's car on the left-hand side, looks like it's just sitting up a little bit, like he's had some front left guard damage there, maybe in the skirmish in the opening couple of corners.
So things starting to settle down at the front of the pack. Meanwhile, this is a battle a little bit further back. Radisic now trying to claw his way back through the field. If you remember, he had a spin approaching Lukey Heights on the opening lap.
Brad Jones
he's got a lot of work to do.
In the Aussie Mail Falcon. This is a brand new car, Mark. The team have only just completed it this past week.
Radisic is in 25th place at the moment, trying to pick his way through the traffic. Some of the slower cars. He has not had a good weekend, the Rat. We take the Shell Helix in-car camera, hard under brakes. Aussie Mail Ford, driven by Brad Jones, gives a bit of a racing red. David Bernard tries to capitalise. Side by side, plenty of fender crunching here. Look at them, they're still going at it as they head down towards Siberia. Brad Jones on the inside. The Haviland Ford on the outside. They're still side by side as they come out, head up toward the hay shed.
Don't need to be on the outside there. And Bradley regains that ground. It's amazing to be able to watch a battle of another couple of cars from the back of Paul Radisish's car, isn't it? It's just extraordinary. But Bradley left room for Paul under brakes there. Clearly, Radisish has got a quicker car at the moment, and Brad's all engulfed in this battle with Bernard. He doesn't need to get involved in holding up Paul Radisish. It'll put undue pressure on him, and he'll bowl a wide. Actually, much like he's done there.
Oh, look at this side by side again. Another collision between the two Fords. Two XR8s going hammer and tong as they come out of MG. Hard on the gas as they accelerate up toward turn 9. Bernard's going to be looking for a good run here. Any fraction of a centimetre he can pick up on that Aussie male Ford's going to help him as they come onto the straight and reach maximum speed down the end here. 280 kilometres an hour, flat out in these V8 supercars.
There's nothing wrong with the speed of Jones's car, is there?
Now he has a look down the inside. Nothing there for Bernard. Ducks back in behind Jones for the run through turn 1. It's been a funny sort of weekend for David Bernard. He was matching the speed of his teammate Marcus Ambrose's untimed practice yesterday, and then when it came to qualifying, he seemed to lose his way a fair bit.
Yeah,
sometimes
he spun around enough times yesterday, didn't he?
Sometimes weekends can just go strangely for you, and you know, your teammate can have a dream run and you can have a shocker. And this battle continues. Mark Scaife, incidentally, has set the fastest lap of the race so far with a 35 neat. Oh, Bradley left a bit of space there, and that's...
Tears. It's going to end in tears. Those two were pretty serious about that. So Bradley, lucky not to get collected by Anthony Tratt. So Brad, fortunately, this brand new XR8, as Neil suggested earlier, just make its debut this weekend. So it's good to get away without too much damage.
You're saying about teammates, Neil. You're always happy for your teammate if they have a good weekend, though, aren't you, really?
Do handsprings.
So this battle back in the pack continues. Mark Scaife, meanwhile, continues to pump out the lead over his teammate. It's out to 2.7 seconds now. Jason Bright defending. As Paul Morris has a look down the inside of Anthony Tratt's car, a little bit further back in the pack. Bradley Jones trying to claw back some track position, but the order at the moment, Scaife 2.7 seconds down the road from Bright. Murphy still in third. Marcus Ambrose in fourth. Lowndes in fifth.
See John Bow coming through the field here as well. The headlights ablaze. He's coming up onto the back of John Faulkner and Rodney Forbes. Also in there is Trevor Ashby. I think behind John is Cameron McConville.
Just amazing the quality throughout this field. You can have these battles, absolute ding-dong battles, right up and down through the grid. Let's have a look at the Shell Helix replay of that incident.
He did leave quite a lot of space, didn't he, really?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There was some room, so therefore there was some incentive, but there just wasn't room for both cars to get through. And he got to about the B pillar, but only just. It's a very hard one to call.
So that's the battle a bit further back. David Bernard in 24th position. Paul Radisich is back there with him too, but he's making some good progress through the field. Talk about making good progress. This man has this weekend shot to bits. He took pole position. He ran away with race 1. Massive lead, which he had the luxury of backing off toward the end. And now look at this. Domination on a grand scale. It was 2.7 seconds the lead over Jason Bright. Previous lap. Look at Scaife. Just has a look up in the mirror. He's got all the time in the world. A man well in control of this situation. We'll check the time next time Bright comes across the line. It was 2.7, now it's out to 3.8. He's pumped out another second on his teammate. Scaife well in control.
Kim Jones, plenty of action out there. What state is Brad's car in now? Has he sustained any damage from that altercation with David Bernard?
Yes, the first corner where he went off with Mark Larkham there, he got hit in the right-hand front wheel. The tyre temperature's up probably 50 or 60 degrees on that wheel, so he's struggling a little bit with it. And then Besnard sneaked down the inside there where maybe he shouldn't have been, but that's not my call.
Well, David Bernard certainly hasn't made any friends here this weekend after his altercation with John Bow. What do you think should take place after something like that? Do you have a point on that?
No, I don't really have a point. You know, we've got our new AU Aussie Male Falcon out there now, and we're just persevering on with that and trying to move forward.
The response, student speaking. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Oh, Bernard's been in more fights than Sonny Liston this weekend, hasn't he?
Sure has.
Oh, look at this.
Hang on. Scaife He's got a problem here, a cracked windscreen.
It was funny, when we were on that onboard shot when he was going down the straight, he made a roll bar adjustment and there was a funny kind of bump and he moved his head, and I thought that was strange because at the end of the straight there are no great bumps and it's just a downshift from 6th to 5th. So I reckon he's collected a bird, which is something that happens a lot here at Phillip Island. We particularly have a problem with it when we test here.
I tell you what, you wouldn't want that lot coming in on you at the end of the straight, would you?
Skates had a big collision with the front windscreen there. Look at that, he's got a spider web he's got to look through now.
Cracks in the windscreen of the #1 Holden Racing Team car, and there they are. And it's our conjecture from the commentary box that Mark may have hit a bird, and it is one of the issues sometimes when you test down here at Phillip Island. That's the shot from outside. You can see just above the D in Holden, it looks like something's made contact with the screen. It shouldn't really offer any great problem other than being a little bit annoying. And there is a brace, and you can just get a glimpse of it through the screen that runs down the back of the windscreen just to give it some extra structural integrity.
Well, I'm down here with Jeff Greg. Can you answer the question, what's happened to Scapey's windscreen?
Well, unfortunately, we've, of all things, hit a seagull. Look, it's not a worry. He's reported it in. We've gone over and had a look at it. So it's at the top half of the windscreen, and we do want a windscreen brace in it as well. So it's not a problem at this stage. And for any unperturbed glare from a cracking, he's got a visor as well. So we don't think it's a problem.
So he'll stay out and bring it home.
Oh yeah, no, he's happy too. So unfortunately, you can't stop seagulls getting in the way.
Thanks, Jeff. Greg?
Well, with pit stops about to start here, the pit window is just about to open and things are going to get very, very frantic. I thought it's timely to give you an idea at home of just how serious these guys are getting in pit lane. This is the older Chicago pneumatic rattle gun that they would use. It's quite a heavy little number. Now, down here at the Larkham pit, this is the only pit that'll allow me to get hold of one of these. This is the new Paoli pit stop system rattle gun. This little number here is worth around about $6,000, and the entire system, the investment for it is about $100,000. So that's how serious they're getting about making these pit stops faster, and it does help it. The actual rattle gun unit gets the wheel much faster. Neil?
Greg, not that it's a serious business, but I think there might have been a Ford logo on that seagull.
He's Seagull's got a bit of a headache as well at the moment.
First of the stops, Radicic takes advantage of the fact that the pit window is open. He's gone miles down the back of the grid after that spin on the first lap, so he's going to use that pit stop to his advantage and let the field come back to him. Could put him in a better position later on in the race. Here's Thomas Mazira in big trouble.
High-speed farming out at turn 2, and I hope the gravel trap catches him here, which it does, and he doesn't make contact with the tyre barrier at the end. That's a very awkward part of the track when you do lock a brake. There's no room for error and you just fire off. So we're on 11 to 28. Don't forget trackside next Sunday between 2:30 and 4 p.m. Coverage of the Konica Series throughout the year, and of course Formula Ford and Formula Holden throughout 2001. And V8 Superstars next Sunday kicks off for 2001 between 4 and 5 p.m. And join Bill Woods and all the boys, Barry Sheen and the cast of Lunatics, as they all offer their quite forthright opinions on the state of the nation in terms of V8 Supercar. Marcus Ambrose has taken an opportunity to come in early in the pit window.
We're going to keep an eye on Craig Lowndes' pit stop here for you. He has just made his way. No, in fact, it's actually Rodney Forbes who's come into pit lane, but Marcus Ambrose is in pit lane as well. So frantic activity down here at the moment. A lot of early stops.
Oh, how close was that?
Now, the situation in terms of the rules as we watch seat depart is that the car controller must ultimately have the final decision, if you like, as to when a car leaves the pit. And if you send your car out into the path of somebody else and there is a problem or there's contact, you will be penalised. It could result in a stop-go penalty. This is Brad Jones.
That's without what the driver would say to after.
Yeah, all sorts of penalties lurking out there in pit lane. It's a hot spot in 2001. Every race virtually. We've got a couple of sprint rounds this year where we don't have pit stops, but the rest of it, it's going to be full on. Here's Garth Tanda, Valvoline Cummins machine. They have not had a good weekend. That car just has not behaved itself. I was talking to Gary Rogers, the team owner, earlier. Said it's amazing business. You know, we can leave Winton looking like absolute heroes doing blistering times around there. You come down to Phillip Island and you're all at sea.
Garth at the moment is 9th and his teammate is 11th. Marcus Ambrose has rejoined, and it's significant that he's come out behind Russell Ingall, so it wasn't a great stop for Marcus. Or conversely, it may have been a great stop for Russell.
The team had a slow stop before. Here's Craig Lowndes coming in for his stop. 12 laps completed by our race leader, Mark Scaife. Stephen Richards is in there too. Monroe pit stop clock tells the story. But the Gibson Motorsport team, I think, were the fastest in race 1 by quite a clear margin.
Excellent stop once again.
Isn't it amazing?
He had the bag slid up before it even dropped on the road and gone.
Yeah, well, that is such valuable time, isn't it? Like, you give someone an assignment to make up 2 or 3 seconds on the track, when the competition is as close as this, if you can make that up in the pits, it's such a gift.
Well, you can't unless something else occurs. I mean, if the guy you're chasing's got a bit of a disabled car in some way and the balance has gone off, you might do the job. But all things being equal, with good drivers and good cars, you know, it's a tall order to take a second off them, let alone 3.
So as a result of these stops, Garth Tanda finds himself moving up the order. Keep in mind our race leader, Mark Scaife, Jason Bright, Greg Murphy, Todd Kelly, all these guys have to pit yet. So there's a lot to happen here before these stops are over. Run up the inside, hard under brakes. Goes Craig Lowndes as he gets his new set of tyres up to temperature.
This is an area where Craig has traditionally had strength, and now Mark is making his compulsory stop, 60 Ks. Looks pretty painful after watching him at race speed, doesn't it? But it was done for a reason at the entry of the Phillip Island pit lane, because of this little chicane that brings you into the lane. They were approaching it at well over 200 Ks.
Remember, a lot of pickup on the right front at the moment.
You can hear Mark being warned that there'll be a lot of pickup on the front right tyre because he's gone offline.
Pickup is all the rubber fragments and dirt there. It is up on the tread. Yep.
This is a good stop, I can tell you. There's quite a bit of damage to that front windscreen. You can see several lines from where he's clobbered that poor unfortunate seagull, but a slick stop by the Holden Racing team.
Yeah, good work.
So they're just warning Mark about the pickup or the marbles that are on this front right tyre. So when he gets down to turn 2, the message is don't arrive in there at light speed because it won't turn properly until you brush the tyre up. Scaife will be onto it. Bargwanna goes out and just in front of Larry Perkins. Generally takes about 2 or 3 corners for the tyres to just clean up, and then it takes probably another 3 or 4 corners for them to start to build the sort of temperature you're looking for. And by the time you've completed the end of your first lap, you'll be starting to get to normalised tyre pressures.
Jason Bright now the race leader, Todd Kelly, Stephen Johnson, Cameron McLean's up there too as a result of all these stops. Garth Tanda finds himself climbing up the order. There's Mark Scaife back into the battle.
Some viewers may be wondering why the tyres are not allowed to be scraped clean either between races, or if the tyres, for example, were used in practice or in qualifying, I should say. We're not allowed to do that anymore. It was once permissible, but not any longer. You've got to leave the tyres in the exact same condition that they came off the car and off the track. Bar, you're allowed to scrape around the tread depth indicators to check the wear rate on the tyre. You're not allowed to clean the face of the tyre.
Is one of our top place cars now, Cameron McLean in the Paragon Motorsports entry, the Greenfields XR8. So it's Jason Bright, Cameron McLean, Garth Tanda is still in 3rd place. Some other cars moving up there, Trevor Ashby, Todd Kelly. So we're waiting for all these compulsory stops to unfold, and we've got a true indication of where we are in terms of our top place positions.
And Scaife is going to be just in, well, we know Scaife, of course, is going to end up being the leader. He's the effective leader on the road, but right behind him at the moment is Craig Lowndes. So it'll be very interesting to see whether or not the Jason Bright stop is quick enough to get him out in front of Craig.
Scaife is only 3.7 seconds ahead of Lowndes at the moment. Lowndes is out a lap or 2 before Scaife, so he'll have a little bit more car speed, you would suspect. There's a chance for Craig to try and take maximum advantage of that situation and try and get as close as he can to Scaife. There's Scaife there, and there's Lowndes in the background, so there's not much in it at the moment.
This is another excellent stop from Gibson Motorsport. Just an excellent bit of pit work that really put him in contention now.
And Cam was getting on the brakes. He had the car standing on its nose.
Slowly.
Yeah, and there's Jason Bright, is it? Coming down pit lane?
Yep.
Yes.
So Bright, our race leaders, come in. Cameron McLean, who was in 2nd. Garth Tanda, who was in 3rd. So all the cars that are yet to make their compulsory stops have just come in.
Just having a look at the tyres going on. Jason Bright's car, the front ones look a little more warm than the back, but gee, I tell you what, the state of play on the condition of the back tyres looks excellent. Watch for Jason Bright.
He's gone out behind Lowndes. We're watching Garth Tanda, and
Bit of a
problem, and the right rear of Garth Tanda's stop was probably slowed him up maybe 4 or 5 seconds, so not so slick here at the Valvoline team.
The order at the moment is Trevor Ashby leading in the Lansvale car, but keep in mind he's yet to make his compulsory stop, so the real race order at the moment is Mark Scaife, Craig Lowndes, who got through in front of Bright, so Bright goes to third, Greg Murphy in fourth, Stephen Richards, Marcus Ambrose, Todd Kelly, Russell Ingall, Stephen Johnson is rounding out the top 10.
It appears as though once again Gibson Motorsport team have slipped Lowndes up the order with good pit work. And it's so valuable. I mean, just can you imagine the task of trying to mow Jason down in terms of your on-track performance? You've got 2 excellent drivers in Jason Bright and Craig Lowndes, 2 very good cars, but you just can't make that sort of ground anywhere other than the pit lane, and they've done it.
That's going to be the story of 2001, isn't it? Pit stops. They said that the pits was going to win and lose the race. Here are Radicic and Tanda fighting over the same bit of territory there.
Gee, it's been an awkward weekend for Paul Radicic after being so strong in qualifying before the shootout. He recorded the fastest time, and it's gone pear-shaped after that.
It's amazing how a team's fortunes or a driver's fortunes within a team can change so dramatically over the course of a weekend. They certainly had plenty of car speed here early in the week.
Yeah, and think about his performance in the support race at the Australian Grand Prix, where he was untouchable.
Yeah, absolute dominance. They're looking out of the front of the Rats Falcon, the Valvoline Cummins Commodore and Garth Tanda. You've never seen this telemetry before. You've got road speed on the left of your screen, engine revolutions on the right, gear position in the middle, and of course brake applications as well.
And Paul elects to come onto the straight in 4th gear. Some guys go for 5th, some like to use 4th. You grab top at about the bridge, then it's a little dab on the brakes and back to 5th through turn 1. 220 k's at the apex of turn 1. It's a very quick bit of road. And look at Garth's car just sliding around in front. This is where we've seen trouble today. People going off on the outside of turn 2. The camber rolls. Very hard to get the car online here. 3rd to 4th. And then it's up to 5th for this flat-out left-hander. They've made big safety improvements on the right. There used to be a clump of trees about there. And then you're braking as you're still turning. And we've seen a lot of accidents here in this past weekend. Turn 4 is a 2nd gear right-hander. Into 3rd. And then Paul's one of the few drivers that actually goes back to 2nd for turn 6 at Siberia.
Well, down here in pit lane with Freddie Gibson and Fred, we've seen some incredible slick stops from your team today.
Yeah, they've been practicing for a couple of weeks now, Greg, and they've done a good job. Like the first pit stop we've done today was quickest of all, and I think second one we did was probably just about the quickest of lot. So that's what it's all about today, is trying to give the driver an edge in the race, and we've done that by moving up in the order of finishing sorting.
That might have been a tall order in some respects because the team has only come together so late in the piece, but you've done exceptionally well.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we didn't expect to be doing this well this early in the season, really, but like by circumstance, we've done a good job this weekend. If the car finishes where it is now, we're not going to catch Scaife. He's done a great job the weekend. The thing is, if we can finish 2nd or 3rd and get on the podium, it'd be fantastic for the team.
Just watching Craig's progress on the screen at the moment, he's doing an exceptional job. He seems to have really settled into this car very well.
Yeah, the thing is, when we got here early in the weekend, so we struggled for times, I suppose, and for grip. But as the weekend's gone, we've got the car better and better, and I think the car's probably better today than it was yesterday. And it's a matter of sort of looking forward to the long race and the Clipsal race.
Thanks, Fredo. Great to see you back in pit lane, mate.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you.
Yeah, I was talking to Fred Gibson after the first race, and he was saying that the morale of the guys is so high by virtue of the fact that Craig Lowndes, no matter what you say to him or what you do to him, you can't stop him smiling. You know, he said it's been fantastic so far to work with him because, you know, really he's in there, he's helping, and, you know, you've got to hand it to the guy, you know, when he's been as successful as he has, and you never see him without a smile on his face.
Paul Radicic got the fastest lap of the race so far, but the Rat is really struggling. He's back in 13th position. All this speed's not doing him much good. A 1:34.37, but he's lost a lot of track position. Sitting in behind Tanda. He in fact came out of the pits in front of Tanda, but Tanda got him, as we saw a couple of laps ago. Here's the battle. Greg Murphy and Jason Bright. Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes up ahead of him. It was a good job by Murphy to get a jump on the Holden Racing Team car.
He really did a great job at the start. As soon as he popped the clutch, he was in business. Made a good stop. They've made a good stop, I should say, and he's right in the box seat here. When I say they, TWR Australia have got 3 cars in the top 4, so that's a pretty special result for those people so far. So let's just have a look at this order, because it's been a bit jumbled up. We've got Scaife in control at the moment, 4.2 seconds from Lowndes, then Murphy, Bright, Stephen Richards, Marcus Ambrose, Todd Kelly, Russell Ingall. Oh, look at this.
Oh, this
getting a little bit willing here as Jason Bright has a look up the inside, but oh, Murphy may have bowled a wide.
Yep.
Just got a little bit offline trying to defend, but in some respects that helps you protect yourself for the next left-hander at Siberia. So what looked like it could have been a position change there sort of worked out okay for Murphy in the end.
Interesting situation this. You consider both these cars are effectively coming out of the same operation. First time we've seen the Kmart team running out the Tom Walkinshaw umbrella, if you like. Holden Racing Team and Kmart Racing both sharing in TWR's intellectual property and engineering expertise. So it's really almost like team cars in a way. Look at how evenly they are on performance. Bright trying to get his way back in front of Murphy.
I was about to say, I don't know that the drivers will see it that way. the balance sheet might show that they have the same father, but
teammates instructor only.
That'll be about it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not suggesting there's any problem between the two guys, but just, you know, when you've got your eyes on, you've got your eyes on.
Plenty of competition. And that's the way they've set it up, because the Kmart team and the Holden Racing Team are supposed to be operated as two entirely separate entities, even though they share the same equipment.
The Kmart car's definitely got the ugliest numbers.
Don't like those, do you?
No, I just go, I think that 5 looks like something a kid's drawn on the side of it.
This is pretty important that Jason Bright finds his way past Greg Murphy, because we've just been doing our calculations on championship points here. If Bright can manage to get past Murphy, he'll take second overall, put Lowndes back to third. But if they finish the way they are, Lowndes will be second overall on the day. So an outstanding performance. Look at this, has a look up the inside. Murphy's just opening the door, trying to tempt him into that. He goes for a 2.
Yep.
Not enough room there. Bright gets the door closed once again. So Murphy,
what Greg's doing is he's deliberately braking a little later for turn 4. Even if it gets a bit messy, he can afford for himself to be wide of the apex because it protects him for the next left-hander.
This battle continues between Radicic and Garth Tanda. Oof. This was a little bit earlier, of course, before Tanda forced his way past. So Bright is fighting for position, a better position on the podium as well here. And he will, depending on his track position, whether he's in front or behind Murphy, will determine where Craig Lowndes finishes on the day. But at the moment, Lowndes is looking like he's going to be second overall for the day on his debut with the Ford Gibson team. So a very impressive performance for a team that really is still in its formative stages.
But the battle for third and fourth is far from resolved at the moment. There is the gap. A silver-black Ford from Gibson Motorsport, driven by Craig Lowndes. This is the car that Craig Baird drove last year for the Stone Brothers outfit in Pertec colours. He's just coming up onto the back of Dougal McDougall there.
Well, the quest to be the quickest in pit lane has claimed another one. Anthony Tratt got booked doing over 60 kilometres down pit lane. Just underwent another stop-go penalty. Hasn't been the greatest of days for them, especially after they did that right rear hub, which put them out of race 1.
Interesting watching the lap times between Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes. A 1:34.64 for the race leader, a 1:34.61. So Lowndes only a few hundredths of a second quicker that time around. But the gap out to 6.1 seconds between Scaife and Lowndes, looking pretty static at the moment.
Yeah, they've both on their last flying laps recorded almost identical times. Not only have they almost been identical in their fastest laps of the race, Mark, but their ongoing laps are very much locked together.
The order at the moment, Scaife 6.1 seconds in front of Lowndes, Murphy third, Jason Bright fourth, Stephen Richards in fifth, Marcus Ambrose still in sixth. Todd Kelly, good consistent day from the young lion, making his debut with the Kmart team. He's in seventh. Russell Ingall in the Castrol Commodore, he's had a pretty lonely sort of a weekend. He's in eighth. Stephen Johnson in ninth. Glenn Seaton back in 10th. And it's Ellery, Bargwana, Tanda, Radicic really struggling back in 14th. Larry Perkins 15th. Cameron McLean, we saw him up there leading the race, or up in the front three before he made his compulsory stop. He's back in 16th. John Bowe, John Faulkner, David Bernard battling with Rodney Forbes to stay inside the top 20. So it's been a good performance from Marcus Ambrose, 24-year-old Tasmanian. So he's already running the Tassie Devil logo on the side of his car. And I'm sure he will be a menace to a lot of the Holden teams this year. He's a man who's super committed to his motor racing. A man who really was out of luck in Europe. He raced wheel to wheel with drivers of the calibre of Jenson Button in Formula Ford, but just never had the right car or the right opportunity at the right time. So he certainly changed his focus at the end of last year after a dismal season at the French Formula 3 Championship. Headed back home and said, right, V8 Supercars my future, and boy, he's got down to business. Moved up to the Gold Coast near the Stone Brothers operation. Very much committed to being successful in this category.
The team speak very highly of him, given that he's had very little time associated with the category and the cars, and he's made a great impression on a lot of people already. So that's an excellent way to start in what is a very difficult series to be consistently quick in.
Well, it's so tight now. The Stone Brothers were saying that Marcus is always around there talking to the guys that build the car, having a look and all that kind of stuff, and that's just sort of enthusiasm. Genuine enthusiasm you have to show if you want to get anywhere.
What a difference 12 months makes. If you remember, Garth Tanda was the winner of the Shell Championship round here only 12 months ago. And look at him here now, battling with his teammate Jason Bargwanna for 12th and 13th position. And these two guys have struggled to set up on these cars from the moment they headed out in untimed practice yesterday.
Garth looked okay in the warm-up this morning, but it just hasn't been a weekend that they've been sort of celebrating. They've really sort of struggled to come to terms with the car, and that's really odd because that's been one of the strengths of this little team. They often drop the cars on the road at events, and you think, oh, maybe they're not going to be there this weekend, but they tickle the cars forward and often end up being very strong, but that hasn't happened this weekend.
The man in the Valvoline shirt is Steve Kramer, very much involved with Olin's shock absorber technology in Australia, and behind him, of course, Gary Rogers, the owner of the Valvoline Cummins team, watching on with interest, but I'm sure a little bit disappointed with the performance of their cars this weekend. 3 laps remaining for race leader Mark Scaife, 6.2 seconds the gap between himself and Craig Lowndes, so Mark Scaife well in control. This battle's not over yet, though, by a long shot. Third place, Greg Murphy and Jason Bright. Murphy has had his mirrors full of that Holden Racing Team Commodore for lap after lap. Has not been able to find a way past Brighty. Look, he has a look, always has a good look down the inside as they break hard for turn 4. But he has not been able to find a way past the Kmart Commodore so far.
Well, down here in pit lane, there's a fair bit of nail biting going on, and one of them is Melanie Roberts, Jason Bright's fiancée. Good to see you back here, and a great start to the year for Jason.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, so far so good. Race isn't over yet. So
yeah, no, exactly right. How are you finding things? You spent a year in America, now you're back on Aussie turf.
Yeah, back to Australia again. Yeah, it's good. Better than in the motorhome over there, so it's much better back here.
All right, we'll let you get back to it. See you later.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. They didn't have any fixed address last year, Melanie and Jason. They basically lived in a mobile home for 12 months, chasing the Indy Lights circuit. Now they've been able to settle back in Australia and attack this 2-year contract with Holden Racing Team. Brighty's still got I guess when you compare him to Mark Scaife, he still has some time to spend in the car to really dial himself into that level.
Sorry, Mark. Just a little love bite there from teammate to teammate.
Can you imagine what Gary said on the radio?
Awkward situation because Mark's was a little bit wide, and Garth's looking to sort of get up there and make some space. But the worst thing in the world is if 2 team cars end up off the road together. 2 laps to go.
So the field become fairly spread out here after that compulsory stop. There it is on the bottom of your screen. Scaife just about 6 seconds in front of Lowndes. That hasn't really changed. Neither has the gap between Murphy and Bright. Bright has not been able to find a way past Murphy. Stephen Richards in 5th, Marcus Ambrose in 6th, Kelly, Engel, Johnson and Seaton rounding out the top 10.
Now, I was at Winton last week watching the Valvoline cars and others testing, and those guys were going so strong there. It's like Gary Rogers said earlier, you're strong one week and all of a sudden you're not, which makes me think about the next event we go to, which is the Clipsal 500 in Adelaide in a couple of weeks' time. Street circuit, bumpy, tight, a long race, and it's highly likely to throw up completely different results once again.
Stephen Richards has done well here. If you remember in race 1, he seemed to be in trouble with his rear tyres. He really gave them a toasting. The back of the car was dancing all over the place in that battle with Greg Murphy, which he ultimately succumbed to. But now the car looking very strong. He's matching the pace of Marcus Ambrose after that stop. Ambrose has not been able to get a run on Richards. Richards, the most impressive performer of the 2 FTR drivers this weekend, finds himself up in 5th place, Seaton back in 10th.
This is the car that Wayne Gardner drove at Bathurst last year, put it on pole position and led the race in that very, very wet early stint. So a little less now than a lap to run for these guys, with Scaife in control from Lowndes, Murphy, Bright, Stephen Richards there on screen, Ambrose, then Kelly. I think he's had a very good weekend, sort of relatively quiet, but certainly amongst it and scoring points. Russell Ingall, Stephen Johnson, and then Cito with 10.
Well, the weather really...
Marcus was out in the wide there. He spent a good 100 metres or so just barrelling along through the gravel there.
Todd Kelly.
There's Todd. I think his efforts this weekend have been very good. First of all, he stuck the car into the top 10, and that's no mean feat. Then he raced very strongly in the first race, kept himself out of strife and scored valuably. And now doing exactly the same in this race. Here's Glenn battling with Steve Ellery. I think a couple of ordinary pit stops have made life difficult for Glenn today.
I think a lot of these
down the order.
A lot of these teams will go away, Neil, from this weekend and say, boy, oh boy, we've got to get our pit stops worked out, because we're going to win and lose races by that. And they've had a graphic indication this weekend of how important it is.
When you see the difference on some of the times on pit stop is quite incredible. 7 and 8 seconds slow.
And it's the human factor that makes that so much difference. So 1 corner to go now for Mark Scaife in this second race of the opening round of the championship. The windscreen survived. No one's even laid a glove on him this weekend. He leaves plenty of room on the exit. Lights ablaze, and it's Scaife who takes the checkered flag and the win. A perfect score for Holden Racing Team in the opening round. Craig Lowndes in second place, 4 seconds adrift. Rodney Forbes has had an off there very late in the race, which is unfortunate. Lowndes, Murphy, Bright, Richards. Here's this battle between Seaton and Ellery being resolved in favour of Glenn. But despite the best efforts of a kamikaze seagull attacking Mark Scaife, he did win that second race from Craig Lowndes. Excellent pit work for second. Greg Murphy, a big mover. Remember, Murph qualified 13th and moved up to 3rd in that race. Jason Bright in 4th. Stevie Richards 5th. Another great job from Marcus Ambrose, Todd Kelly, Russell Ingall. A couple of fellas down the back of the order that we wouldn't expect to see down there. A tough one for John Bowe today. And also Paul Morris and Mark Larkham down near the bottom of proceedings as well. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you soon. Bye.